Hello, my name is Bryce Tubbs. Welcome to today's episode. With me today is Carolyn Ho. She's a fitness coach and personal trainer, and she's a highly engaging, motivational, and goal-oriented fitness coach and personal trainer. She specializes in both female and male body transformations, functional movement, and strength-based training. We had a very, very excellent and in-depth conversation, a few days ago when we were just catching up. And I'm super excited to be able to share her wealth of information and knowledge with you guys today. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Thank you for having me all the way from England. Yeah.
England. Yeah, the main reason why I worked with you is because it's really cool to see someone who both practices what they preach, and they're not just a talker, they're actually doing things, helping people make transformations and improving themselves every day. So I'm extremely excited to be able to, get some great value out of today. So, what was life like before you got into coaching and training, and, what was the catalyst or cause for you getting into the field?
Well, firstly, it's a massive compliment for you to mention that what you just did. So thank you. Honestly, it's a very long story, but I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. Before I was a trainer, and I only became a trainer around the age of 23. That's when I started really practicing. I actually was working in an office in New Zealand. Prior to that, I was traveling and trying to find myself, those famous words, find myself as you're traveling around country to country. And I was actually just bouncing around trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. And one thing that resonated with me throughout my time traveling was that I was always into some sort of fitness, whether it was running, whether it was go to the gym or anything to be active. And before the catalyst really before that though was when I battled through anorexia and bulimia. So I had gone through that from the early age of 13 to 15 years old. And that was when the signs were creeping up. And around 15 to 16 was when it started getting quite intense with the anorexia. So I did, you see these days, a lot of people go through it, but I had really controlled habits. I was hardly eating anything, etc. But I was always still exercising ridiculous amounts. And at that time, it was very unhealthy. And that kind of spiraled out of control and turned into bulimia. And there were times in my life when I was battling through these moments, I genuinely thought that maybe there's a chance I would not be here. And yeah, so it's very deep. It still touches me today because I do sometimes look back and think, wow, that's how far I've come. And it's a very, very deep way to start this interview, but you might as well get stuck in, right? And learn from the very beginning. So when I was at university, I left university very, very early because I started university very early. So I started university at 16. So university here, that is when you get your honours degree, etc. So I left school at 16 years old. So you can imagine at 16 years old in Scotland, most people don't have enough qualifications to go on to university. But I was young for my year and I had enough qualifications to get me into a Scottish university. And because I was quite an outcast in high school, I was a bit of a nerd, a bit of a geek, loved a bit of chess club, etc. I really didn't want to stay in school. I just knew there was more for me to do in the time that I could give more that I could do within the time I would have maybe have given to high school. I could have made use of that time even more by going to university early. And because at the time I didn't have that close group of friends like a lot of people did have, I thought, what's the point of being in high school? So you can imagine being a young kid, highly exercising, going through eating disorders and leaving school, going to university at a young age, what's going on. And unbeknown to me at the time, it was something that, it was just normal. I didn't realize it would have such a big effect on me mentally as it did as I grew into being a personal trainer later down the line. So went to university, I graduated at 20 years old, so very young. And I decided to go traveling, which wasn't the best idea. So having gone traveling, I thought that maybe, just maybe, this was going to be it. Maybe this was going to Australia was going to be my chance to get better. I thought maybe this was a remedy because I tried a doctor. I didn't last very long. I didn't like my doctor very much. No offense to her. I just felt that she was not very inspiring. I fell asleep during my sessions. And they prescribed me antidepressants at the age of 16, 17, which I didn't take. I stopped after 3 weeks. I didn't like the feeling of them. I didn't like the that it wasn't natural. I didn't like anything about them. So I stopped and I thought, you know what, I need to find my own way of getting through this. So I went out traveling, thought this is it. Go to a new place where I can make new friends, build a new life. And you think that's it. And it ended up getting worse. So it got worse in the sense that people thought I'd recovered, but I didn't. I was actually getting worse, but silently. And then we'll go through the years. I was going through bulimia when I was traveling. I had the best time of my life traveling, but this was the one thing that kept holding me down. I'd meet new people. I'd go exercising. People thought I was the most healthiest, sporty person ever. Oh, you should be this and should be that. But actually, deep down, I was still going through this illness. And it was a very hard thing to I don't know what I'm looking for, that word, to come to truth with myself. Until I came back to the UK at the age of around 22, 23, and decided that I would try in Manchester to build a life there. I thought, I'll go back to the UK, I'll figure out what I want to do there. And about age of 23, 24, I decided that if UK didn't work for me, I would jet out one more time and see what was good for me. Like, if I can go one more time across the world after already like 4 or 5 years of traveling, if it doesn't work, I'll 100% come back to England and I will stay here and I'll make it work. So I decided, okay, this is it, right, okay. So I sat down on my sofa. I remember this day very, very clearly. I was still going through my bulimia a little bit. Not as bad as it was before, but it's still there. And I sat on my sofa and I remember thinking, okay, if you go, you need to figure out what you want to do. You can't just go this time and just find a new job. You've got to actually go and find out what you're going to do. So I sat down, I listed out my pros and cons. What was I good at? What was I not very good at? And what I loved and what I didn't love, etc. And what came on top was fitness. What I loved helping people. I loved being charitable. I loved charity work. I actually almost went into charity work first because it was always that giving kind of feeling. I wanted to always give to people. And I decided what's very personal to me. I was like, I want to recover. I want to get good. If I can recover and become a fitness expert to help people in something that I love as well, like this is a perfect job. I remember having about a couple of grand left in my bank account. I was like, okay, so you're spending money on a flight. You're going to spend money on this new course. You're going to have very little, so you better get a job when you get to New Zealand and you better make it work. So I booked my flight to New Zealand thinking, okay, one more chance. I booked my course for personal training. I thought, okay, it's going to cost you about 3 grand to get this course done. It's going to take about a year, maybe less if you're really quick and you're really good at it. And you're going to find your experience. And I was like, and if you spend this money, you have to make it work because you ain't got anything left and you ain't asking your parents for any money. Like they have not got enough money to give you. I was like, okay. And I'm a bit like my parents. I'm a wee bit too proud sometimes to ask for help. So I will keep going until I crumble on my own, which is a lesson I've learned, is to use your resources and don't be afraid to ask for help. But that came a bit later down the line. So I flew off to New Zealand. I started my course back in Manchester, but I took it with me to New Zealand, where I did an international course for personal training. I did a course that was guided by a New Zealand course provider. So I knew I was going there. And I got in touch with my tutor there. Now, I was still going through my own self-recovery, which was very difficult because imagine you're trying to remedy yourself without anyone's help, when in fact you probably need more help than you think. And I was still pushing through that and trying to make myself a personal trainer and trying to build a new life. I passed the course, obviously, with flying colours, which I'm really happy with. And I remember working for the Education Council of Aotearoa, which is basically the Education Council of New Zealand. So they dealt with teacher registrations, etc. And I loved the company there at the company. I loved the organisation, but I had a few, like a lot of people, you have a few tips with things about organisation. And I thought, okay, this is definitely not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it was between the 10-month mark I'd worked for them and the year mark of being in New Zealand that I decided, is New Zealand where you want to be? You've got your certificate now. You've worked for the government. Are you happy here? And I wasn't. I was really unhappy. I took 2 months off to figure out if I wanted to stay there or go, because I wasn't happy staying in the organisation. And 2 months is not enough time to really find a full-time job, because you kind of, just doesn't really work. So I decided at that point, I'm going to go back to England. I remember crying to my sister for like 2 hours, saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing the right choice. I spent all my money to go back to England. And I made a promise after that phone call. I said, you're going to apply for companies in England, and then you're going to accept the first one that takes you in. So I was like, you want to be a personal trainer 100%. Is there anything about being a personal trainer you don't want to be? Nothing. Everything fits, yes. Hours are funky, but hey, you can live with that. So, I mean, 5 till 9, woof. But you get used to it. Now I wake up at like 4 a.m. quite easily and quite happily. So I applied for 2 companies, Virgin Active, you may know their name, and Nuffield Health, which is English. I remember getting an email in from Nuffield, and Nuffield said, we'd love you to come in. Oh, sorry, Virgin Active. We'd love you to come for an interview next week. And my flight was booked for 2 weeks after the interview date. And I remembered what I told myself. I said, Caroline, you promised yourself the first company that get back to you will go and you'll go to the interview. And you'll take the first job that one of like the first company offer you. So I changed my flight date. I went, okay, I'll change it. I paid, I think it was like $500 to change my flight. I was like, just go. So I did it. I was like, this is your life chance. I'm aiming at an age where people are building their lives and you need to get your life started now. Like, this is prime time. Do not waste your time. Don't wait 2 more weeks just because you might miss your opportunity. So I flew back. I remember the second day in, I went from Scotland straight down to England. Probably didn't even rest properly. I was like, I just go. So I went down, had the interview. They invited me back for a second interview. Now I went back to Scotland, got a phone call like pretty much the same day saying, would you like to come down for an interview for Nuffield Health? I thought, wow, I just got back to Scotland. Oh my gosh. Imagine I'm jet lagged. I'm really tired. But every time I got a call like that, or some sort of sign like that, I remind myself, Caroline, you told yourself you do anything it takes to get a job, whether you sleep or you don't sleep, I don't care, just go. So I said, no problem, no problem. The funny part comes was Nuffield. You were like, are you sure you can come down to Scotland? And I said, I was like, yeah, no problem. This place called Stoke Poges. I'd never heard of the place. And all I could see from Google was a horse and a big piece of green grass, right? So I'm like, middle of nowhere, great. But I still made a promise. So I look at it online, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I actually traveled down the next day. I booked a hotel room a night just to make sure I wasn't late for the interview the day after. So I went a night before, booked the hotel, stayed at the hotel, got a taxi to the place. I was like, wow, it really is in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't as far as I thought. It's just because I'd never been there before. So it just looked a bit alien to me. So I got to there and they offered me the job on the spot. They said, we know you're going back to Scotland, so we want to get this paperwork done now, and we think you have the qualities to be a good trainer. Would you take the job now? Yeah, right. So I was like, oh gosh. And in my head, I thought, but I've got a second interview with Virgin Active, and they're really good. Then I went, okay. I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, okay, I'll just sign. So I signed everything, passport, certificates, scanned through, got on the train. I messaged Virgin Active. I said, I'm really sorry. I appreciate everything you've given me. I've taken a job, and maybe in future I'll be able to have another opportunity to come back. And the guy was so lovely. He's French guy. He was like, no worries. Like, we'd love to obviously interview again if you ever want to come along. And such a nice guy. Virgin Active staff are really, really cool. And that was the start of my career. So that's how I got into personal training. And I moved down. I literally moved down 5 days later to England, packed all my stuff, said bye to mom and dad, found a place to stay, and managers were really great. Tried to help me along my way. Said if you can't find a place to stay straight away, you can obviously stay at our place, etc. Just until you find your own place. And that was the start of my first year as a personal trainer in England. I had part-time experience in New Zealand because there was a gym out downstairs from the office I worked at. So I worked there like very, very few days, but I did something. But then Nuffield House was my true start to my career. And if you want to learn more about that, I can obviously go into that a bit later if you want. Yeah.
You know, your story is so much like to unpack in there. I think one of the things is your mindset. There are a lot of people, whether it's fitness, whether it's business, whether it's life, that they can't really commit to anything. Can you give some either tips or some things for people who, aren't quite used to keeping promises to themselves to start doing that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I always look back on the times that I was very disappointed in myself. I look at those times where I remember sitting down or standing or whatever position I was in. And I think to myself, the times where I was never fully satisfied with the times I never pulled through the promises I told myself I would. It's like when you go to the shop and you're like, I need to go get honey. I need to buy honey. you buy chocolate, you buy crisps, you buy everything else but honey. You get home, you're like, oh, I forgot the honey. I forgot the honey. Or maybe you didn't forget it and you just kind of told yourself that you'd rather have chocolate than honey. But you get disappointed because you know for a fact that the honey would be better for you. If you just spent an extra bit of money on that honey, the long-term effects would have been so much better for your health, right? So every time I look back on that, I look at the times where I've not been very proud of myself, or and it's been a very long time since I've been that way because of the mindset I've changed. And I was never, ever always like this. Like, it took me a lot of time to get into this mindset. And my piece of advice would be always look back at yourself. I remember the times that you really felt proud of yourself. Why? It's because you achieved something. You took the time and the patience to graft through most of the time. And you saw the long-term goal and you got there. That's why you should, that's what I like to do with my clients anyway. I say, listen, this isn't going to happen overnight. You came here and for 5 or 6 years, you've beat up your body. You didn't care. You didn't even think about it. You couldn't have cared less because it wasn't a priority. And now you want results the day after, but you're not really willing to put the work in. And I know for a fact, if you don't do the work now, you're going to regret it even more. I'm like, so just look at the long-term goal, enjoy the journey along the way, and just remind yourself of why you're doing it. It's always the why, isn't it? Like, why are you doing it is a great why. So yeah, just looking back on the days where you weren't proud and you were proud, and why it was for those, why you felt like that for both reasons.
You know, I think in some of our previous talks, you've been telling me about how you have some cool resources for people who are either trying to change their health, make some different changes, and a lot of really good tips. Can you tell a bit more about those posts that you've been making and where they can go to access them?
Yes, so I write, recently I've been writing more blog posts. I mean, it's something I've done when I was younger, but they were never really formatted in the most professional lights because I was new to it. But recently I have been writing blog posts which can be accessed on my LinkedIn page. I always post them on all my social media sites for everyone to see, very open and for public. So just jump on my LinkedIn, which is just Caroline Ho. You can connect with me if you want, and I post regularly on there. I also post just general posts on there to keep people motivated and just to share how I am as a trainer and how my clients receive my training. And it's generally very motivational, inspiring stuff. I am very careful not to post things that will just like trying to gain service from people. I really just want people to remember to live life as happy and fully as they can. And I know it can get very lost in the mix of trainers these days trying to find clients. And I'm just hoping that everyone who does read my post understands that it's purely me just giving out information, because especially during this time, during this lockdown time, I think it's too easy to take from people, but it's not the right time to take. I think it's right now is the right time to just give and be happy to give and helping each other. So that's why I initiated it. I know a lot of people struggle to handle this situation. I don't know what to do with themselves or how to handle exercise and nutrition well. So by just giving it free information, which is all accessible online anyway, the only thing I've done is collect information from different resources and combined it into one article, so you guys don't have to do the research yourself, which will save a lot of time for you guys, because I know how hard it is to read scientific data off of a massive published article. So I've just drawn out bits and bobs from websites, articles, and put it into my own blog for you guys to obviously reference to.
Yes. You know, you talk a lot about gratitude. Can you just share a bit more about gratitude? And I think a lot more people would try and utilize gratitude and be more giving, but they don't. They're probably scared or scarcity mindset that they're not going to get anything back in return. Can you share a little bit more about that?
And that's the issue. They expect something in return. That is the first issue right there. So I listen to a lot of people, and I listen to a lot of motivational speeches and a lot of TEDx talks as well. TEDx talks. I also have just signed myself up to Oprah Winfrey's new masterclass app, which is incredible, guys. If you haven't already, I signed up 2 nights ago, and in pounds, it's not too expensive. For a year annual subscription, it's like £170, which just sounds a lot in essence, but if you split it up into 12 months, it's really not that much money. It's like less than £17 a month, right?
It's really that much? Wow. They
Yeah,
advertise so hard. How can they make money off of that? That's crazy.
yeah, it's really, really good. Like, so Oprah Winfrey, I didn't realize she'd actually founded this, and this is her thing.
Oh.
Um, So masterclass, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, they've drawn the most successful, or what we would deem as the most successful celebrities, speakers, writers, authors, musicians, whoever you can think of, to come speak and teach their story. And it's a platform where it's very sorry, I've lost my wording here. For those who are really interested, they only share it on this platform, basically. So I was listening to Helen Mirren. I was listening to, was it RuPaul, you know him?
Yeah.
And that was just today, actually. I was listening to him. I'm still to finish his one, and I was listening also to Robin Roberts from Good Morning America. So one thing I learned from them was, and Tony Robbins as well, Jim Rohn. I'm into all these people, and one thing they all share in common is the more you give, the more you'll get. But it's not so much that you should think like that. It's just how it happens, and it doesn't always come back in the way you expect. It can come back in many forms. So when I started listening to these people, probably just over a year, maybe a year and a half ago, I started just to give more, just because it made me feel good. And I've always been a bit of a giver. I just enjoy it. When people ask, like, I think a lot of people think I'm just doing it to be a good person, right? I actually just enjoy the feeling of giving. Like, if giving was a sport, I'd be doing it every day. I'd be really fit, right? I just really enjoy it. Like, if someone said, "Oh, you're just trying to be nice," I'm like, well, I suppose it comes with it, but I actually just enjoy giving people things. It just feels really good, and maybe it's actually a selfish act if you think about it, because I'm giving and I'm getting a bit of like, oh, that feels good, like, and it's a weird way to think about it, but I suppose it does give a good light on me, so I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. So one thing I learned was, when you give something, don't expect to receive, because that's not the right intention. Your intention, and intentions is another thing I'll talk about. But your intention should always be, I just want to help. And people are scared to give, I think, because, or with gratitude, is we've brought in a world, we're up in a world where people talk about, make sure you connect with people who can give you something back. You hear that a lot. Make sure you network with people who can give you something back, which I think is important. You've got to have a right balance, like yin and yang. You've got to have the balance, but you can't allow that to be the primary thought in your mind, or that's when you start drawing back from a lot of people who could be a very big part of your life. So I've learned that no matter how big or small someone is, in essence, in relation to your life, or how they look or whatever, treat them like the same. Like, treat them, everyone, the same, unless there's a reason for you not to. Just like, trust people until they're given reason not to trust. So I will treat someone who may not have any money the same as the richest guy, because at the end of the day, money's just a tool that doesn't define who they are, and certain circumstances put us in certain places in life, right? I mean, I wasn't born into a money-filled family. I really exact opposite, and I still am not the richest person at all, if even close to. So I do understand, like, how people can fall into different categories. But what I do believe in is that no matter who you are, if you see someone in need of help, whether it's verbal, mental, physical, whatever, just help them if you can afford to. But obviously there's you've got to be careful about of other factors. Don't just give all your money to the homeless person next to you, right? Just but you want to always take into consideration other factors as well. But in essence, you want to just be able to open your heart a bit more and stop thinking, I will get something back from this, because that's what's going to destroy your ability to be a better person. I do think that a lot. I really do. And the more I've been giving, the more it's amazing how your mind changes. I went from someone who was like, oh, but if I give them £10 I could have spent on myself, to, if I give them £10, that could actually change their entire life. Like, that could actually buy them a bed in a hostel, which could protect them. And in essence, I could have, like, that one night could be his saving grace. Just having a warm sleep could maybe be the reason he lives another year. You just don't know. That night could have been the day that someone could have attacked him, but instead he had £10 to go get a bed in a hostel, and he was protected for that night, and he actually saved a man's life. You just don't know, because life has a really weird way of working. So long as you just change your mindset of how things are, stop thinking about yourself, think about just think about the other person. So I go on a bit of a tangent, but I get really into this, and I just it really means a lot to me, because I've been given a lot in life in terms of loved ones, and I've met some incredible people when I traveled who knew that I struggled through my eating disorder, even without me telling them. They just knew. I mean, it was very visually obvious that I wasn't well, And it's very visually obvious as well how hard I was trying to get better and trying to work better. And I had people who silently, not obviously, helped me out big time, mentally, physically, and just were there for me without me even asking. And I just remember these people, and I remember how much of an impact they made on me. And I'm sitting here today because of a lot of them who've supported me, and I'm not sitting in a hospital bed because of them. So I always remember how grateful I am of being saved by a lot of people, whether they know it or not. Maybe they'll never know it, I don't know. But I think that the reason I'm here today is because of how much people were giving to me and the gratitude that they were also giving back. Yeah,
it's powerful. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us.
It's I do go on a big road down that way.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's refreshing. I mean, because like sometimes you reach out, or just people in general can be very, very weird. Like sometimes I'll ask someone, hey, do you want to maybe talk to my audience and give them some tips? And then the first thing they go is, what's in it for me? And I'm like,
no, they do?
Yeah, I'm like, well, you have a couple hundred followers, and I mean, if you're really, encouraging, you might be able to really change people's lives. I mean, you're gonna get what, like couple thousand views from it. You don't think you can change the one person's life? And then, I guess if that's not really worth it, that's okay. But
I like that you said that changing one person's life is, it's not just changing, it's almost like I see it as saving one person's life.
yeah,
You have 10,000 people viewing your video, maybe 9,000 are just watching just because, maybe 800 are actually somewhat interested, 100 are like, actually I could take something away from this, 99 are looking and thinking, yeah, this guy's powerful, or this girl is powerful. One person's like, I really need this because I'm just about to do something that I don't think I should do, and it's just saved my life. That's the one person you want to get. And everyone else is still important, of course they are, but it's the one person. There's a great guy, Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's like into the fitness industry. He talks about social media. I think we spoke about this. I'm not sure. Can't quite remember. He talks about, don't worry about the millions. Worry about the 1,000 that actually care and follow you properly and affect them, because then their word will spread to the right crowd. So they'll be attracted to who you are, and maybe there you'll be able to infect more people in the right way that you hope to. Don't worry about the millions. Just worry about that small number that actually really follow you. And I think that's a great point you just made about those people who asked what's in it for me.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time. Can you tell them once more where they can find you? Maybe spell your name just in case they can't see.
Sure, it's Caroline Ho, so Caroline, and then my last name is Ho.
Nice. Cool. And for those watching, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. If you would like to go and join a community where people are improving themselves and helping others do the same, I recommend you go and check out the links either above or below the video to our free community. Basically, it is a mastermind of people coming together and being positive and supporting and uplifting each other every single day. So if that's what you've been searching for, I recommend that you go and check out those links either above or below the group, above or below the video. We'd love to have you inside that group in the community. Have a great day, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed watching as much as we enjoyed creating it. Feel free to hit that share button so other people can get some value as well. Have a great day. Talk to you soon and see you later. Talk to you later. We're done recording in 3 and 2 and 1.